$380 billion is making its way towards Bitcoin from the 13th richest country per capita in the world. President Trump started an arms race to see who can get a Bitcoin strategic reserve passed first. So who's it going to be? First, let's dive into Hong Kong's groundbreaking proposal as they are proposing another Bitcoin strategic reserve. So Hong Kong is now proposing to add Bitcoin to its national reserves, leveraging the one country, two systems framework there, right? So it's got two different systems, which I think is very interesting and something to note from Hong Kong. So the legislator wants the special administrative region to take advantage of China's one country, two systems policy. So I don't know if you guys recall this earlier this year. Hong Kong was actually one of the first Asian country to get a Bitcoin spot ETF. So this was already groundbreaking in itself, where Hong Kong gave China and Asia access to Bitcoin products in the traditional financial system when it came to their Bitcoin and Ether Bitcoin spot ETFs. So they were issued by three Chinese firms and a Chinese asset management system. But the interesting aspect of the way that Hong Kong is structured is that China essentially runs Hong Kong with a little bit of guidance here. So this is just the start for the potential of major changes and major money coming towards Bitcoin, because China is one of the first, or China would be kind of the puppet master behind all of this, right? So first it's Asia making it's Hong Kong making the play for this Bitcoin spot ETF. Now, let's dive into this a little bit more just on what that actually means, right? So they would make use for the one country, two systems, first try the Bitcoin in the ETFs, which they've already further explored. And then Hong Kong will now, and the Treasury Bureau will formulate crypto regulations based on the same business, same risks and same rules. So essentially, they're making a bet big on Bitcoin, where China currently holds almost 200K Bitcoin through various confiscation efforts. So China, one of the largest Bitcoin holders, is now making this almost a proxy through Hong Kong, where they're going to now develop a Bitcoin spot ETF, right? So it's interesting that this article here cites President Trump and his speech over in Nashville, because I think that's essentially where all of this started, right? I mean, a lot of people started to pay attention towards Bitcoin because of President Trump and his talk at the Bitcoin conference there in Nashville. But let's dive into a little bit more of what this strategic reserve would do, right? So they want to leverage the one system. This is interesting how many times this comes up, the one country, two systems, and adopt a Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset. Doing so could provide financial security, boost the local crypto industry development, and attract talent and investment to Hong Kong. So this study could make a huge difference based on the spot ETF that is being launched by the United States. And this is why I think it's absolutely massive too, is Hong Kong swings massively above its weight. I mean, if I were to tell you Hong Kong was the 42nd country by GDP, you would say, okay, Brandon, like whatever, this is not a huge deal. But if I were to tell you it's the 13th country by GDP per capita, not too far behind from the United States at number 8, and the United States isn't even number 1, right? So Hong Kong really does swing above its weight. It has more GDP per capita than China. It has more GDP per capita than many other countries that follow, where it has a lot of GDP, ahead, right? So, I mentioned the GDP already, but that one was even a little bit outdated. It's rapidly growing GDP, sitting at 380,000 or billion, excuse me. If you can't tell, I'm a little under the weather here, so the brain's a little foggy, but it's at 382 billion. Yeah, it's billion with a B. And I think it's also kind of interesting because the narrative for China or for Hong Kong is that Hong Kong is almost a dummy for China, kind of a test dummy, right? Like a lot of people like to equate Canada and the US kind of similarly to Hong Kong and China, but that doesn't always seem to be the case on both sides of the coin, right? But I even asked Google, hey, is Hong Kong a test dummy for China? No, it's not, but it's a special administrative region of the People's Republic of China, right? So I think this really highlights the one country, two systems aspects of things, where Hong Kong is governed by, it even says it here, where it's developed by China's leader in the 1980s. A policy was intended to preserve Hong Kong's unique political and economic systems while integrating it into China. So Hong Kong is still freer than cities on the mainland, with relatively open media, religious freedom, and etc. But it's interesting because the United States promotes Hong Kong's autonomy and treats it as a non-sovereign entity distinct from China. So the way the U.S. looks at Hong Kong is also very interesting. But like I stated in the beginning, we've got a massive, massive arms race, nation state FOMO coming to Bitcoin. How can you not be extremely, extremely bullish with everything coming forward here? I mean, I've lined it out in multiple live streams, but here are just some of the countries exploring a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We've got Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Central African Republic, Cuba, El Salvador, Japan. The list goes on and on and on. Russia, Turkey, US, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe. I mean, a lot of these players are absolutely massive in the effects that there are in the overwhelming effects and the overwhelming influence that they'll have on the rest of the world. And I think that is coming quicker than anybody would think, right? I think in 2025, we're going to see at least 3 countries move this through a vote, and maybe multiple states in the United States start to move this through a vote as well. So I think that this is going to be absolutely massive. We're seeing Hong Kong continue to push this forward, and let's look into some of the things that they are proposing here, right? So they're looking at using some of the cash reserves as a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. So I think this is a really interesting quote, and I really want to highlight this here. If major economic powers take the initiative to include Bitcoin in strategic reserves, the value of Bitcoin will become more stable. This is something that I've been hammering home for a while, folks, because if the United States comes out and says, hey, I want to buy 1 million Bitcoin, the United States is not going to be day trading Bitcoin, right? The United States is going to say, okay, I am going to, buy 200,000 Bitcoin every single year for 5 years and hold on to this Bitcoin for 5, 10, 20 years. And so with all this HODL mentality that governments and nation states will have, that will continue to make it go and continue to make it more stable. And we got some people in the chat. So happy New Year's, Johnny. And happy New Year's from the Netherlands. Oh, that's so awesome. So happy New Year's, guys. Glad to see you guys all joining me here today. I'm actually joining you from Medellin, Colombia. So we've got a little reggaeton music in the background. If you guys can get a little bit of that, hopefully the mic cut that out. But let's keep diving into the rest of this quote, right? So it'll be causing more and more other countries to follow suit, reducing their holdings of traditional assets. See, look, reduce their holdings of traditional assets. Now, why is that super important? Well, that means they're even hinting at it. Countries are potentially going to start selling gold, selling silver, selling traditional bonds, selling all these different kinds of things to scoop up more Bitcoin. That, my friends, that is the breadwinner right there. That is extremely bullish. That is something you can't describe, right? We're going to be scooping up more Bitcoin, selling traditional assets, and hodling Bitcoin with nation states, buying millions of coins. The nation states arm race is just getting started, folks. So buckle up, because 2025 is going to be a huge year. And so this will result in a fall of the price of traditional assets and will shrink the government's fiscal reserve holdings in traditional assets. So While advocating for Bitcoin's inclusion, acknowledged the risks with the potential assets. He advised the Hong Kong authorities to allocate only a small percentage of the nation's reserve initially through ETFs. And that's how it would go, right? So at this point, right, any country that essentially launches a spot ETF in their country now has that potential. And it's going to be interesting to see how many countries, because these ETFs will now have to disclose what country will be holding Bitcoin at a certain extent, right? Because the ETFs are going to be holding it, so they're going to need a trusted custodian, and then take it a step further from there. So that's where I think like it's going to be super bullish going forward. We're going to see a lot of things come out of this. And, I think a lot of countries, it just really hasn't been truly gone dive into, right? I mean, like we're looking at this here, right? 2 days ago, strategic Bitcoin reserve race heats up. That's this article's words, not mine, folks. That's this article's words, not mine, right? So they're really looking at how all these countries are really starting to look at this. So Hong Kong's legislators propose integration of Bitcoin into Citi's exchange fund. Hong Kong has positioned itself as a crypto-friendly hub, listing 12 cryptocurrency-linked ETFs, and the German finance minister urged the ECB and the Bundesbank to consider Bitcoin and Bitcoin reserves. So I think that this is extremely bullish, and extremely bullish for China, and extremely bullish for Asia as well, because we've seen how Europe has essentially attacked Bitcoin, right? We've gotten Italy raising capital gains tax. We've got other things where they're even trying to tax unrealized gains, but only on Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin hodlers are the ones that are making everybody poor. I think that is just absolute baloney, right? I don't think that is necessarily the right way to go, but I think that it's been planning here for some time to create a digital euro, which essentially would be a central bank digital currency for Europe here. But it is very encouraging that we're seeing China now propose this, and I think that we're going to continue to see more and more of these countries, do that. So let's dive into a little bit. Pull up this Jamie, my good friend, shout out to Cascader, of how Hong Kong and China's fiscal relationship really plays in. So I'll pull it up for you guys here, where Hong Kong has played a pivotal role in China's financial sector. It serves as a global financial hub and facilitates investment and trade between China and the rest of the world. So I think that is super important, and cannot be understated, that Hong Kong and China have a very coinciding relationship. I can't think of a better word right now, but they basically are commingled here, right? So Hong Kong helps China, China helps Hong Kong. It's a win-win for both parties right now, and it's really ingrained into both societies and their financial relationship as well, including their financial stock market. I think a lot more Chinese investors invest through the Hong Kong Stock Exchange opposed to the Chinese Stock Exchange. So a special administrative region, one country, two systems, as I've reiterated multiple times throughout this. It retains a separate political and legal framework and financial policies from the mainland of China, but has allowed Hong Kong to maintain its position, as an international financial center and gateway for foreign investment into China. So that is super important, right? That we're really looking at foreign investment, so outside investors having access now to China that might not have previously had that. And so there has been some political tensions, some other issues that have come along with that. But overall, how could you not be bullish with this news, folks? We're getting the 13th ranked GDP per capita coming in and proposing a Bitcoin strategic reserve, urging them to look into a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I think that this is absolutely huge, and it only highlights the true power of the Bitcoin system, because I think at the end of the day, you're going to need a Bitcoin policy, whether you're a business, whether you're a nation state, or whether you're just a singular country. At this point in time, everybody is going to need some sort of Bitcoin policy, whether it's a strategic reserve, whether it's buying Bitcoin, whether it's borrowing against Bitcoin, whatever it is, you're going to need something along those lines. And I think it is coming soon. And in 2025, we're going to see multiple nation states adopt a Bitcoin strategic reserve. You heard it here, folks, the green candle prediction, multiple nation states coming on. But with all this talk about ETFs and everything like that, I think the true power of what Bitcoin and the strategic reserves highlight is that the fiat system is essentially corrupted everything. If you hold your money in dollars or in a bank account, you're going to lose money to inflation over a certain period of time. So that's why you need to hold Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the greatest savings technology there is. But because of this fiat system, it's also corrupted a lot of other industries. One of those industries has been the health insurance industry in the United States, where a lot of people have waited until the end of the year here to meet their deductible to get the health care that they need. You see the rush at the end of the year. You might not be able to get in because you haven't reached your deductible. Or if I were to tell you that you didn't need health insurance, I could help you find awesome doctors, negotiate your bills, fund those bills through a peer-to-peer funding platform, and join me and many other like-minded individuals to do that. I wouldn't pass up this chance, folks, because Crowd Health, if you go to joincrowdhealth.com, you can join the team for $99 for the first 3 months if you use promo code Green Candle. I'll save you some Skrilla Manila to start the new year, and you can go ahead, join this website, and set up an appointment. See if it's a good fit for you, because I use it. I'm now a full-time entrepreneur. I don't want to get taken to the woodshed by these health insurance companies. So I use Crowd Health, and it's been absolutely amazing. But another aspect, I think, of Bitcoin that gets understated a little bit is holding your own private keys. Really utilizing the true power of Bitcoin and reverting it back to what you can what the true power is, right? It's being your own bank. I know we're talking about strategic reserves, ETFs, all those kinds of things. Well, why don't you just go on to thebitcoinway.com/green candle? These guys can help you do that if it seems super intimidating to you. They got people literally working around the clock. They got from right now 4:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Thursday the 2nd. They've got times all throughout the entire day. So you could just go ahead and join these guys, get a consultation, get potentially a Plan B passport, or check your computer for any potential viruses or anything like that. They've got a lot of great services. So I highly, highly recommend the Bitcoin Way. I wouldn't give you guys anything that I don't personally use here. So they get the green candle stamp of approval. But remember, folks, we're seeing Hong Kong, the 13th most powerful nation when it comes to GDP per capita, coming on and looking at adopting Bitcoin. How can you not be bullish? On top of that, we've got other places coming online, and the arms race is on for Bitcoin strategic reserve. Who's going to get it first? Who knows at this point? It's very interesting, and I'm just glad to know that I have beaten a lot of these nation states to stack as much Bitcoin as possible. So if this is your first time here, smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, tell me what you guys think about me blabbing in this mic and this new setup. So I appreciate you guys, and thank you guys all for joining the chat, and everybody have a happy new year to all you lovely people for joining in the chat. So thank you guys so much for coming on in and joining me here on this New Year's Eve.